The Hadean, Eon. In our last video we looked at how the Earth formed and then started melting into a hot ball of magma. So how did it eventually cool down enough for life to emerge? This heat, combined with the energy from frequent asteroid impacts, kept the Earth molten for quite some time. However, over billions of years the Earth slowly started to cool. Some minerals started to crystallize in the mantle and the crust started to solidify. Meteorites are rocks from space that have fallen to Earth. Some of them are so old that they are some of the oldest rocks on Earth. Earth was very hot and there was no oxygen in the atmosphere. The rock is called Epoch, and it is 4 billion years old. It was found in northwest Canada and it provides a window into the past. Scientists were able to study its mineral composition to learn about the conditions on Earth during the Hadean Eon. Another important discovery is the discovery of the oldest known fossils. During the Archean Eon, the Earth continued to cool and the atmosphere and oceans developed. Life became more diverse and complex, and the first evidence of photosynthesis appeared. To learn more about the Archean Eon, watch our next video. This process allowed early life to harness the energy of the sun to produce food. In just a few billion years, the Earth transformed from a molten rock to a planet with a solid surface, a cooling atmosphere, and oceans teeming with life. The emergence of photosynthesis and the oxygenation of the atmosphere were perhaps the most significant developments during this period. These innovations set the stage for the evolution of more complex life forms, including ourselves. As we continue to explore and learn about the Hadean Era, we gain a deeper appreciation for the incredible journey that life has taken on Earth. From the earliest single-celled organisms to the first multicellular organisms, each step in the evolutionary process has been a remarkable feat of adaptation and survival. We can only marvel at the ingenuity and tenacity of life that allowed it to flourish in such harsh conditions. This was a significant development because it marked the beginning of the oxygenation of the atmosphere. Photosynthetic organisms such as cyanobacteria released oxygen as a byproduct of their metabolism. Over time, this led to the accumulation of oxygen in the atmosphere. The increase in oxygen levels had a profound impact on the evolution of life on Earth. It paved the way for the emergence of aerobic organisms, including the first multicellular organism. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our videos. The fossils are of single-celled organisms and they date back 3.5 billion years. Your support means a lot to us and helps us continue making great content. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them below. We love hearing from you. Thanks again for watching and we'll see you next time. This, combined with water from other sources such as volcanic activity, formed the Earth's first oceans. As mentioned earlier, the atmosphere was mostly made up of hydrogen and methane with little oxygen present. This meant that the oceans were not very hospitable to aerobic life, which requires oxygen to survive. Instead, the early oceans were dominated by anaerobic organisms which do not require oxygen. Despite the challenging conditions, life found a way to thrive. The first life forms on Earth were single-celled organisms that lived in the oceans. These organisms were probably very simple and did not require much oxygen or sunlight to survive. They reproduced by dividing into 2 identical daughter cells. Over time, these simple organisms multiplied and became the foundation of the food chain. As the Earth continued to cool, more complex life forms evolved. The exact timing of when the oceans formed is uncertain, but most scientists agree that they were present by 4.4 billion years ago. The early oceans were very different from the oceans we know today. They were warm and shallow and had a high concentration of dissolved minerals. This is because the rocks that make up the Earth's crust were still very young and were undergoing intense weathering. This process released large amounts of ions, such as calcium, magnesium, and iron into the oceans. These ions then formed compounds with the water, creating a salty, mineral-rich environment. They were found in Greenland, and they provide evidence that life was already abundant on Earth by this time. This would have made it very difficult for life as we know it to exist. However, there is evidence that life did exist during this time. Most of the rocks and fossils from this period have been destroyed by plate tectonics or erosion. This makes it difficult to learn about the history of life on Earth during this time. But scientists are working hard to fill in the gaps in our knowledge. And new discoveries are being made all the time. Scientists believe that the first life forms were single-celled organisms that lived in the oceans. It was a time when the planet was cooling and life was just beginning to emerge. While we may never know everything about this ancient period, scientists continue to make new and exciting discoveries that help us better understand our planet's history. These organisms were probably very simple and didn't require much oxygen to survive. As the Earth cooled, more oxygen started to appear in the atmosphere. This made it possible for more complex life forms to evolve. During the late Hadean, the Earth was still very active with volcanoes erupting, and the atmosphere was still being bombarded by asteroids. But life continued to thrive. Scientists can study these rocks to learn about the conditions on Earth. During the Hadean E&D, sea drilling allows scientists to drill into the ocean floor and extract samples of rock and sediment. This is important because the ocean floor is like a time machine that records the history of Earth. Computer modeling helps scientists understand the processes that occurred during the Hadean. They can use computer models to simulate the conditions on Earth and test different hypotheses about how life may have started. But the Earth was still very hot inside, and volcanic eruptions were common. These eruptions released water vapor and other gases into the atmosphere. The atmosphere was mostly made up of hydrogen, helium, and methane, with little oxygen present. The sun was also much brighter than it is today. Ultraviolet radiation bombarded the surface. Frequent lightning strikes and volcanic activity provided the energy necessary for chemical reactions to occur. These reactions produced the first organic molecules, the building blocks of life. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to look at the Hadean, the second era in Earth's history. Then suddenly, almost as if by magic, life appeared. Scientists aren't exactly sure what caused this sudden explosion of life, but they think that something triggered the process. Maybe it was an increase in volcanic activity or a large meteorite impact. Whatever the reason, life started to flourish. This is the time when the Earth started to cool and life began. Let's get started. The formation of Earth caused by a giant cloud of dust collapsing in on itself created a lot of heat. But just because the conditions were right for life to start doesn't mean that it did. For millions of years, nothing happened. There are three main pieces of evidence scientists use to study the Hadean meteorites: deep-sea drilling and computer modeling. Scientists divide the Hadean into two sections: the early Hadean and the late Hadean. One of the most exciting discoveries related to the Hadean is the discovery of the oldest known rock on Earth. Unfortunately, our understanding of the Hadean is limited by the lack of fossil evidence. The Hadean was a time of great change and activity on Earth, and now it's time to learn about the next era in Earth's history, the Archean. As the Earth cooled, water vapor in the atmosphere condensed and fell to the surface as rain. The early atmosphere also played a role in shaping the properties of the oceans. One of the major changes during the Hadean was the emergence of photosynthesis. The Hadean was a period of tremendous change and innovation. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing.